Hi, my name is Sue Forbes and I'm a certified photo instructor and naturalist, and we're coming live from the National Geographic Resolution. We're in the Southern Ocean and the ship is abuzz today with news of the discovery of the Endurance shipwreck. A South African polar vessel called the S.A. Agulhas has a multidisciplinary team that's been searching for the Endurance down in the Weddell Sea. And the Weddell Sea is only about 800 miles southwest of us, where we are in the Southern Ocean. We just sailed from South Georgia yesterday, which becomes relevant for the whole story of Shackleton. Shackleton was the leader of the expedition on the Endurance. He was a British explorer born in Ireland and decided that he wanted to try and get all the way across the Antarctic by foot. So the first thing he did was sail down to South Georgia and down into the Weddell Sea so that he could land to make that trek across the Antarctic. But he never made it. He ended up stuck in the ice in the Weddell Sea, and it floated through the winter of 1915. And by November 1915, the Endurance sank. So the multidisciplinary team with these underwater submersibles that were used using high technology of video and photo and laser discovered the Endurance 3,008 meters. So that's almost 10,000 feet under the surface of the water. It's in a really icy section that's mostly covered in ice all the year round, and it took them a couple of years to find because they started last year, but in fact that same ice I'm talking about stopped them from being able to discover it. One of the most amazing things about the discovery is that the location is only 4 miles south from where Captain Frank Worsley had pinpointed where the Endurance sank 106 years ago. So the Endurance sank in November of 1915, and the men had to get off the boat and camp on the ice. They managed to stay on the ice for another 4 months, but then with spring coming, the ice started to break up. So they took to their lifeboats and had to sail then to Elephant Island. And Shackleton realized as soon as he landed that he wasn't going to be able to stay there. So again, he took one of the lifeboats that they'd covered in wood to protect it more for the treacherous crossing to South Georgia. It was 800 miles across the Drake Passage and Southern Ocean. And 16 days later, they managed to make land in South Georgia. But they were on the southern side of South Georgia, and then they had to cross over the mountains, which had never been done before. There were no maps, no nothing. But they made it to Stromness, which is a whaling station on the north. So once Shackleton had made it to Stromness, he wanted immediately to get back to Elephant Island and save his men. But he had to take multiple attempts where he was turned back by the ice. And so it wasn't till August of 1916, some 4 months after he'd left the men and they'd overwintered on Elephant Island, when he, on the Yelp show, managed to save the men on Elephant Island. Shackleton was an incredible person with amazing leadership skills, and we really talk about the grit and determination of what he and his men achieved because they all survived. All 28 men survived the ordeal. On our voyages, we tend to even go to a number of the places that I've mentioned during this story. We hike the last section that Shackleton took over the mountains to get to Stromness. We obviously have the modern gear and we're doing it in summertime, but we go from Fortuna Bay over the mountains and to that point where he would have seen with the Crean and with Worsley looking down to Stromness and where the whaling station. Then we also go to Grytviken and we see the Shackleton's grave, because in 1922, Shackleton returned to Grytviken, but he died of a heart attack right there in the bay at King Edward Point. And so he's buried at Grytviken, and we go and have a toast to Shackleton, who is often called the boss.
To the boss!
Another incredible thing about when they discovered the Endurance was just what pristine condition it is in. You can see the name Endurance on the stern. Endurance was made out of a really solid oak, long-lasting, and this has been proven by here 106 years later how well preserved it is, and the fact it's sitting almost upright in that almost 10,000 feet of water. It's preserved as well because of the cold water of the Antarctic. There's not quite so many microorganisms down at that depth to be able to eat the wood, and so it's seen in this pristine condition. So we're all really excited about this wonderful news on the National Geographic Resolution. It's an amazing part of the world with an incredible history, as well as the natural landscape and wildlife that we've been enjoying. And I'm so happy to be able to share this with you today, and thanks for tuning in.